In this video, I wanted to talk about how you can set up and use remote desktop, either be it on your LAN or over the WAN, to remotely access your machines. So what exactly is remote desktop? Remote desktop is a utility that's built into Windows, and it's in all versions of Windows currently supported: XP, Vista 7, all of them, and on the server side too. And what it does is it allows you to remotely access another Windows machine, and you can basically access everything like you were sitting right in front of it over a network. Now, you can do this on your LAN, or you can do this over the WAN, so you can even access your machines from over the internet. To make it even sweeter, there are applications available out there for Android which will allow you to access a remote desktop into your machines via your Android device over your cellular line. So how do we set this all up? So you'll see on the diagram here, we have a LAN and we have a WAN. And on the right hand side, we have the LAN. So if you notice that there's the PC on the top right, and that's the PC that we want to control. And it has an IP address of 192.168.2.7. The only things that we have to do to this PC to make sure that it's set up so we can remote desktop into it are: it has to have a user account with a password set. It has to have remote desktop enabled with a user assigned to it. The administrator is by default assigned to the remote desktop group. And we have to make sure that the firewall is open. And the default port is 3389. Once all that has been done, we go to the PC below it, the PC on LAN. Now on that PC, we're going to go ahead and pull up a remote desktop session by either going Start Run in MSTSC or accessing it via the program menu and accessories. And we're going to type in either the IP address or the host name of the remote PC that we want to control on the LAN, which in this case we would use ESXi-test or the IP 192.168.2.7. So how do we connect now when we want to do it over the WAN or over the internet? It actually works pretty much exactly the same way. Your remote PC you would access the same way, it's just what is the host name that you're going to type in to connect to. So you're actually, in this case, going to type in the IP address of the modem or your external IP. And the only other difference is on the router, you're going to have to make sure that you port forward port 3389, which is the default port, or if you change it to another port, you would have to forward that port. But you would forward that to the machine that you want to connect to, or the destination machine that you want to control. Once the port forward is in place, we can then, on our PC on the WAN or our Android device or whatever, we can then access the machine via the IP. So in this case, if we were on the PC on the WAN, we would type in 67.22.45.98, and that would then connect us to our modem, which will then forward the request to the router, and then it'll hit the PC and we'll be able to control it. So now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to set this up and configure it. And what we have here is a virtual machine running Windows 7 Ultimate 64-bit, and it's got 2 GB RAM dedicated to it, and it's on a wired network. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually go and enable remote desktop. So we go to Start, and we right click on Computer here and go to Properties. And we see it takes us to our system panel, and there's the remote settings there. And another way to get to it is just to go to Control Panel and find the system tab underneath there. So we click that, and then we're going to click on the remote settings on the left hand side. So now we see our options for remote desktop. We see the default is do not allow connections, and we're going to go with the one in the middle, the allow connections from computers. And we see this little pop-up here saying that if the desktop is in hibernation or sleep, we won't be able to access it. And we select users. You see that user already has access because it's the administrative account, but you could add more users there. And we're just going to hit apply and OK. And then we're going to close out of there. So now to access remote desktop, you can go Start and type MSTSC, which stands for Microsoft Terminal Services Client. And we can get to it that way, or we can go to All Programs and Accessories, and you'll see Remote Desktop Connection underneath there. Okay, so what you're seeing here is on the left hand side we have the console view from my ESXi server, but that's the Windows machine that we were just working on. And then on the right hand side, the remote desktop connection is actually running on the local PC, which is on my desktop, which is on the same LAN as the virtual machine. So left hand side is the virtual machine, and the remote desktop on the right is running on the desktop that I'm on. Okay, so let's take a quick look at some of the options available on the remote desktop. You see it'll allow us to save credentials, save the session. We've got options for the display resolution, color, the local resources available. You can share audio, keyboard, printers, drives from the local machine to the remote machine. And you can set a program to launch when you connect, the experience. Now this combined with the resolution is pretty important depending on the speed of the connection that you're using for your remote desktop connections. And then we see we have some more settings under advanced tab here. And we're going to use the IP of the remote machine, and we're just going to hit connect. And we see it gives us a little warning here. Just going to hit connect, and it asks us for our password. And then we get another warning here. We're just going to hit yes and connect. Okay, so we see on the left hand side our virtual machine goes to the lock screen, and our remote desktop popped up on the other screen. Let me slide it over here, and we see this is our remote desktop session. So we've officially remoted into the PC. And if you're on the LAN, you can also connect via hostname. So if you're going to be making this public facing or accessing this via the web, there are two concerns. One, make sure you set a decent password that would be hard to break, and two, you don't want to use the default or the standard port for remote desktop, because if anybody's port scanning you, it's going to be blatantly obvious that you have remote desktop connections accepting on this port. So there's actually a registry key that you could use that I'll show at the top here, and you can use that to change the port that is RDP is listening on. As always, you want to be careful anytime you make changes to the registry and back up whenever you can. But you see that we're just going to click on it here, click on the decimal value, and then you can go ahead and set that to any available port. And just make sure you match that on your port forward rule to match whatever you set here. So now to connect over the different port, all you have to do is you enter the host name in the same way you would before. Here we'll use the IP, and then you just do colon and specify the port number that you made. And then hit connect. And that's all it takes. Alright, and for the Android portion of this, we're going to be using, this is my Samsung Galaxy Note 2. And we're just going to fire it up real quick. And this is the app we're going to be using here. It's available free off the Google Play Store. It is the 2X client for RDP Remote Desktop. Like I said, it's free. It's one of the best ones I've found. And now we're just going to go ahead and open it. And you see it has our connections here. We're going to touch and hold and then edit it. And you see the settings available are pretty much the same as what we saw on the PC. You can set the port, the IP, username, password, and various settings about the connection itself, the resolution. You see bitmap caching, themes, and stuff like that. And oops, I didn't mean to touch that connection. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'm going to disconnect from the other one. And you see it's got some things here about the gestures you can use for zooming in and out and that kind of stuff. We're just going to go ahead and close that. And that's really all it takes. You now have a full-blown remote desktop session via your Android device. And from here you could go and launch your ESXi vSphere console and manage virtual machines or anything else that you would do from your desktop. And you see there's options for a mouse and a keyboard. The mouse is nice. It offers a little more accuracy. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing I want to mention is if you were going to do this over the WAN, the only thing differently you would do is, let's go to a test here and back to those settings. Right here you would change that IP would be the IP address of the modem or your external IP, and that's pretty much it.